with the 4 days left. Over 65 million Americans have now voted. That's 41% of the 2020 electorate. That's a lot. Trump's in Michigan and Wisconsin. Harris holding a rally there as well. And we know these final weekends usually are about mobilization or finishing touches on closing arguments that have already been made. But that's not how Trump's doing it. He is closing with violent rhetoric directed at his critic, his political opponent, Liz Cheney. Now, Trump himself, I want to begin by reminding everyone, he was terribly targeted by attempted assassinations this year. Authorities did not conclude the motivations, the formal motives of those attackers, and we've been covering all that. I'm sure you remember it. It was Donald Trump and his allies who, at that time, around those terrible assassinations, loudly denounced just even strong language or criticism from Democrats. And they argued, without evidence, that even criticizing, say, Trump's efforts to steal elections as autocratic, that itself, they argued, contributed to a violent climate. So Donald Trump's new remarks, which you're about to see and you may have heard about, completely hypocritically contradict his own supposed calls to cool the rhetoric, which were then obviously selective, and very clearly you'll see why they were and are now. But Trump, his attack here, what he's doing can't be normalized or treated as just one more closing argument. It raises very real concerns of security and of criminal law about his effort to publicly foment violence as he talks about putting Liz Cheney before a shooting squad.
Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay?
Liz Cheney is saying today, this is how dictators destroy free nations. They threaten those who speak against them with death.
You know, when the guns are trained on her face.
Representative Cheney is a true patriot who has shown extraordinary courage in putting country above party.
But she's a stupid person.
Trump is increasingly, however, someone who considers his political opponents the enemy, is permanently out for revenge, and is increasingly unstable and unhinged.
Trump has made other statements that his fans have very famously responded to with violence. That includes the whole January 6th debacle and insurrection after he lost the last election. It's all around the election times we see this get the worst around him. There's a prosecutor tonight I can report that is already beginning a probe legally into whether Donald Trump has broken another law. He was convicted in New York of one. He has other trials. And these laws, you might remember when he's accused of breaking them, are usually around illicit efforts to hold, take, or steal power. This is an election law violation here about whether he is basically issuing a public death threat pursuant to his electoral goals going into this weekend in Arizona. So that's Trump's focus, while Harris is running on turning the page on exactly that kind of conduct and pitching freedom and a working class agenda. With all that in mind, what do you see right now going into Tuesday?
Well, I don't want to jinx it. I'm trying to hold myself back a bit because I think I know what's going on. Just look at the early voting. Women showing up at 10 percentage points higher than men to vote. Donald Trump has accused us on the other side here of controlling the weather. I started writing a note to him that I was going to post saying, Donald, you're right. We do control the weather. And what's going to happen on Tuesday is going to be a blue tsunami. And I don't think you really see it coming. And part of it is of your own making. But a large part of it is that the women of America are going to show up, are already showing up in early voting by the millions, by the tens of millions. And so I'm extremely optimistic, but I'm afraid to say that because, and I don't know if you can hear this out the window here, somebody is letting off fireworks outside.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't hear it.
Well, what I wanted to say to them is if you're doing that because you're hopeful about Tuesday in a good way, there's no touchdown dance, end zone dance on the 2-yard line. We have to get through this weekend, right. Monday and Tuesday. Everybody has to do what they're going to do this weekend. We are knocking on doors. We are making phone calls. I am getting out my contact list on my iPhone, and I'm scrolling down every day this weekend and on Monday to see who I know and who I think, I need to remind them not only to vote, but to where to vote. Don't vote third party, for God's sake. Don't do that this time. And it's, yes, we live in 330 million people. We need more than two parties to cover the broad spectrum of political thought in this country. But we haven't done that.
Yeah.
We haven't created
a system. Let me show you. I'm going to jump in, Michael. Let me show you Michigan in 2016, where the Democrats spent less time there and Trump won. People in politics remember that.
Yeah.
They don't.
No time.
Yeah, no time. They don't always remember that out of those over 4.5 million votes, I have the Trump margin up on the screen. I did this the other day with the Biden margin. The point is the same in both. It's barely a bar because it was so slight. 11,000 out of 4.8 million votes. That is what Michigan was in 2016 when he did win the Electoral College. You mentioned early voting. Michigan has over a third of registered voters. That's the entire possible electorate there. Has already voted, and we're over 60 million nationwide. So do you expect, with even high women's turnout, close margins that could swing either way?
Well, I guess anything can happen, and I know I probably should stick to the script and say yes, it's a very close election, and anything can happen, and it's really tight. And yet, I know what my heart is saying, and I'm out enough, and I'm around people enough. And it was this way back in 2016 when I tried to warn people that Trump was going to win this, and it's very hard. I mean, I've spent a lot of my life trying to warn people that we're not going to find weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. General Motors is going to go under. I mean, you could just look at my work, and it's like nonstop. And then I have to deal with being booed off the stage at the Oscars for saying that, you know, there weren't going to be these weapons of mass destruction. So I'm used to this. It's okay, but I don't want people to think that they can't work.
What's your heart tell you? Well, what's your heart tell you?
I know. I heard you. My heart tells me that we're in for a very great and historic moment, one that should make all of us who care about this country and who love it very emotional, in the sense that we've pulled this off, that we are better than what we've seen in that reel that you ran. We are a good people. And we are a decent people, and we you know, the great thing, especially about Kamala Harris, is that, and what I want to say to Republicans who are watching, or people who maybe are not going to vote for her, that the things that she's fighting for, improved Social Security, improved Obamacare, a ban on assault weapons, protecting women's reproductive rights, she's not just doing that for Democrats. She's doing that for you, all of us. Everybody is going to benefit from a Harris-Walz presidency, and just the thought of that, and that it's so selfless. It's not just about me. What can we get? What can we give the rich for more tax cuts? Whatever. It's about the people, and everybody getting a fair shake. Everybody having a seat at the table, and everybody gets a slice of the pie. That's what we stand for. That's the America we want to live in. I just saw the statistic today. It said 72% of us do not own a gun. You know, do not own a gun. That's who we are. People in other countries think we're a bunch of gun nuts because we have these horrific mass slayings. And of course, I've done my own work about this. But the good news is, at our core, in that heart, we know the country we want to live in, and we want everybody to have that fair shake. And so I'm extremely hopeful. And I think I might have said maybe a month or two ago, way too early to you, that we have the potential of seeing a possible modern day, not the old school landslide back where you have 60% of the vote, but we have a chance to see a 55-42